So this is one of my passions. I work with people like Stuart Anderson at the national level with Transportation Research Board, really invest a lot of time and effort in project delivery methods and best practices. I work with Everyday Counts, Federal Highway, and their program and give them presentations around the country, as well as their task force for education, which is really where we need to go. We need better education and training with these alternate delivery methods. How many golfers do we have in the house? All right, to wake you up a little bit, I'm going to show you this little video.
So, you're playing for the club championship. After 17 holes, you and your opponent are dead even. You have the honors off the 18th tee. You hit your drive right down the middle of the fairway, 250 yards. Your opponent goes straight right into the woods. You help him look for the ball for about 10 minutes. Finally, he says to you, why don't you go back and get your second shot? I'll look for my ball for a couple more minutes. If I don't find it, I'll go back and tee up again. You go out to the fairway, you hit your second shot. It's perfect, lands about 10 feet from the pin. Just as your ball hits the green, from out of the woods you hear, found it. The ball comes flying out of the woods, drops about this far from the pin for a gimme. Here's the dilemma. Do you take the cheating bastard's ball out of your pocket and confront him with it? Or you just keep your mouth shut?
I've probably seen that 30 times and I laugh every time. It's a great video. But you know, it's kind of the dilemma in our industry, and how do we get to the next level? How do we improve delivering these facilities and these services to our community? Because that's what we're doing. We're all trying to work together to ultimately deliver these services to our community. And it really starts with trust. And that's the thing that I have found really is the impediment to better delivery of our projects. We're all working together to do that, but trust is the main factor. And I think alternate deliveries helps us overcome that. And it's the delivery methods that kind of create the behaviors that we've learned over the years. And with CMRIS, or CMGC as Federal Highway calls it, the open book approach really has gone a long way to help overcome that trust issue in delivering these projects, and it's a key part of what you do with CMGC. I know Stu's going to talk more in depth, and I'll give a little more insight on that as well. But all these are key elements, and you heard Scott talk about it earlier. The innovation and leveraging strengths between the owner, the contractor, and the engineer is really all key. We've got to treat ourselves as part of one team. So, you know, we start off with these projects, and we know a little bit about what's above ground. We know a little bit of stuff peeking out, but there's a whole lot of stuff underground that we hope we figure out. And I can tell you, working together, we can figure out these things a lot easier. There's nothing but problems. In my career, I know that you go back and you say, I wish we would have done that up early in the design or early phase of planning. And the key is working together to figure out what the unknown is and mitigate that risk, because risk is a bunch of money to all of us, to the taxpayers, you know, and delivering these projects on time. So these are the benefits. I mean, there are so many studies that show these are the key benefits of what alternate delivery will do for you if implemented correctly. And the last one was really what drove it, reduce claims. So in the 90s, we were spending 20 cents on the dollar as taxpayers on litigation. And it's because we were only using design, bid, build was really the key delivery method in our industry. And it really forced behaviors, you know. And I'll go through some scenarios here later on, but alternate delivery does change that. We're finding the studies will show there's a lot less litigation and claims over these jobs because there's better teamwork and efforts and working up front in the process. So we have different models we can choose from: design, bid, build, CMRIS, design, build, in the playbook. And they're all going to be used or should be utilized in some fashion. The design, bid, build is never going to go away, but it can be an effective delivery method in certain situations, as well as the other two. So how do we decide which one's which? Well, design, bid, build is kind of like an old friend, like an old fine glass of wine. We're used to it. We know what it is. The benefits are, we know what it is, right? Theoretically defined scope of work when we put the plans and specs out to bid, theoretically. And we get a hard number up front. Some of the challenges are there was no contractor involved in the design phase. The owner and the engineer spend 2 to 3 years designing and planning a project, and then we get 3 or 4 weeks to bid it. That's not a very good business model for anyone. If you guys take 2 or 3 years to design and plan the project, we're not going to be much better getting 3 or 4 weeks. There's an inherent problem with that. I'm a better contractor when I know and plan up front. You don't get that opportunity to design, bid, build. Initial price is not established until bid time. You do an engineer's estimate, so you're hoping that it's going to meet your budget when you open those bid prices. Lack of flexibility of change on the fly out there because no one knows it all. There's that iceberg sitting out there that we all know about is coming. And it produces an adversarial relationship. You know, as a contractor, we've got to bid what's in the plans and specs. Strictly. We've got to get low on bid day or we're not getting a job. And if it's not in the plans and specs, we're going to be asking for more money, and that right there forces the adversarial relationship. So scoring criteria, design, bid, build, low price. No qualifications required. If you're low on bid day, you can provide a bond, you're it. You're qualified. And, you know, TxDOT does these pre-qualifications, but you all know what happened to the Ballinger story. They are pre-qualified every year, and look what happened with that. 10, 30, 40 projects that they defaulted on in our communities. So SEMA risk, it's based on qualifications. So you're picking the team based on what they're qualified to do. Just same as the engineers. When the engineers are selected, they're picked on qualifications. You get design phase assistance, constructability reviews, things that work and don't work based on contractors' operations. The flexibility for fast tracking, ordering materials ahead of time, early packages, expedite utilities, more shared risk, and the control of contingencies and allowances. Design, bid, build, we put contingencies in our bids for things that may happen. If we don't use it, if we don't have to use that money, we keep it. And SEMA risk, you put those contingencies out there. If they're not used, they go back to the client. Some of the challenges, it does take a cultural change. People aren't used to working side by side and trusting each other for common project goals. Sometimes the designer, and we saw this early on in this delivery method, is designer and who's the trusted advisor of the client is now in a different position because the contractor is also a trusted advisor of client. And sometimes those cultures compete with each other. And the one thing about the SEMA risk, you don't actually have a price set until you have a guaranteed maximum price. But I can tell you, at each design milestone, you're given those prices along the way. If you're not getting them, you've hired the wrong contractor. So this is typical scoring that you see. These should vary based on the project needs and goals, but this is a typical scoring reference. And a lot of owners like this intangible. Some of the panels I've been on, they put extra points in there for things that don't fit in other categories. So just what they feel is really the best team overall, or going to provide the best production of the project. So this is qualification-based design build. The cities and the municipalities in Texas actually have this ability to do that. Other municipalities in other states do as well. It's the same as SEMA risk. The only difference is the engineer works for the contractor in contract. There's no difference in how it operates. It's the same way. The other good thing about it, too, is it allows some of the smaller firms to compete. The smaller firms, contractors, cannot compete on these big design bids. They don't have the financial wherewithal or resources to be able to do it. So it does open up competition for them. It's the same challenges, though, as we had with the SEMA risk. Design, build, best value, which is really the TxDOT approach. You get guaranteed price up front, you get more competitive pricing, and you get higher qualified firms. Usually the best firms and the biggest firms can compete on these projects. Some of the challenges is it takes longer to procure. It's substantially less to procure qualification-based selection on SEMA as you see in design build than it does best value approach to design build. And you don't control contingencies allowances. So we put contingencies in our bid to help protect us. If we don't use them, great, and more often than not, that's the case. It goes to our bottom line rather than being returned to the owner. And there's also a lot less flexibility for change. The owner may get a lot of ATC ideas from other competing firms, but for us, the winning firm, to change our operations and implement those ATs sometimes is too tough to meet and still meet the schedule. So we're wasting a lot of time and money on those ATCs when if we negotiated some of that stuff up front, they could be easily implemented. This is a common best value approach we see around the country. It's a little different, well, a lot different than TxDOT. TxDOT mainly uses an 80% price base. Right here you have a technical score. You have days to compete. This is the actual bid price. This is in thousands. This is the time value, the days times $50,000 a day. And when we're talking about, you heard earlier, congestion mitigation costs to the public and getting jobs done, this is a strong motivator to help select and get the contractor pre-balance of competitive pricing, technical score, and faster delivery. So you combine those two, you divide by their technical score, and the one with the best value is here. So this outfit was pretty low. Obviously, that's probably some pretty innovative ideas. But you can see here, the low score here, lower price here, higher schedule became third. This second place team overjumped that. And that's, unless you have a good balanced approach to best value, you won't achieve the goals that you're going to get. So Barbara White Bryson from Rice University, you know, on the vertical side, our company does vertical work too, so we got exposed with CMGC very early. After years of implementing CMGC at Rice, she's convinced of this. So she, you know, sometimes I'll let you read it there, but to believe that we're hampering the industry from innovation with utilizing design, bid, build, and it's really true. Although we have VE opportunities sometimes, design, bid, build, it takes too long to implement them and make changes. So you really want to spur innovation in a team atmosphere, you use alternate delivery. And predictability is highly valued. So understanding what things are going to cost, eliminating those things underground, those icebergs below the ground, is really important to her. So why would we choose one method over the other? I love this far side calendar. My mom used to give me this for Christmas every year, and it kind of hit home here, this contract. But how many times does this happen? Again, 2 or 3 years planning, designing the job, you put it out for bid. It may have been a survey bust or whatever, but the moat gets built inside the castle. This is what you want to avoid. This is really, I think, this is eliminated for the most part with alternate delivery if it's done correctly. It's getting everyone to pull in the right direction. Pretty important to understand that we collectively develop these project goals and objectives that fit that job, and we all buy into them up front. And if they're done right, in my experience, the client, the designer, and the contractor working together will equal 5 and not 3. It's amazing what you can do when you leverage everyone's strengths. So design, bid, build, pretty linear process. You start, you end the job. Well, all the alternate delivery is really to introduce some of this other critical thinking together. You know, I'm a better contractor when I work with the client and designer up front in the design phase. Pure and simple. We help eliminate a lot of E&O issues in the drawings. You know, we bring ideas and phasing and sequencing. The first thing we do on jobs, we throw the phasing plans out on design, bid, build, and we recreate our own. I mean, how many engineers here have actually seen that done on most jobs? So it's just a different way of thinking. And understand and introduce this critical thinking to provide better value and a better plan that's predictable and delivered on time. So Hans-on Wieko used to be with Construction Industry Institute. He was a big believer in what he had studied in the pre-construction design phase process, or the contractor being involved, and understanding that doing that critical thinking up front as a complete team will pay off in the end. We'll actually, and there's statistics that prove that, will produce a faster and cheaper project in the long run, cradle to grave. It's all about finding that circle there in the middle, the zone of best value between all these different elements that we're dealing with in delivering these jobs. This is one job. And, Scott talked earlier about technology. Our company does a lot of 3D modeling. We call it virtual design and construction. This is the 7th Street Bridge job. It was design, bid, build. Larry TxDOT's here. He was on that job, so was Scott. We had about 1.5 years to build the arches, so we had time to introduce this technology up front. The first time we ran a clash detection in our model, we found 26 conflicts between the embeds, the rebar, the PT ducts, everything else. Can you imagine if we sent a crew out there the first day to go build this thing? 26 conflicts, we'd have been dead in the water. There's your first change order right there. And so the use of technology is really accelerating these alternate delivery methods because we're able to plan. And there's the end result. This is a light rail job we had in downtown Phoenix. The first 20 miles, Phoenix built the largest starter rail system in the country. It built 20 miles. All of it was design, bid, build. Every one but 2 projects, which happened to be ours, were behind schedule and all had big claims and change orders on them. So the city decided no more. They went seam at risk on the next 4-mile extension. We got the job, and one reason why we got it is because of this modeling. The biggest problems were in right-of-way and utilities. We were able to model, and you can see if you look closely, there's some conflicts with some of the utilities, but we did extensive potholing and design work gave that information back to the design team and kept modeling and going back and forth. And it eliminated a lot of problems out there in the field once we went to construction. This was a design build job, QBS selection design build with San Diego Airport. It was completely redoing the land side job up front in the Terminal 2. So it was 6 bridges. It was the arrival and departure. It was the new check-in baggage system. It was a parking garage. I think we had 7 phases of work because we had to keep the airport up and running. And so one of the things we did, because we had the time to do it and it was alternate delivery, we modeled. And this is what it looks like underground. We can't see underground with plans like we can with these 3D models. Our guys really understand this a lot better. You know, we produce 2D plans and yet they've got to go build it in 3D. So this really helps them. And if you look at all those piers and foundations, to be able to coordinate all that work in different 7 phases of work around utilities makes a big difference. Was definitely a big difference maker in this job and keeping that airport up and running smoothly. This is a job in the middle of a busy arterial street. Storm drain, 60-inch storm drain right through the middle of the sea. The road's probably 60 years old, all kinds of existing utilities, no one knows where they are. Well, we had to figure out how to fit traffic in there, what size equipment would work in there, what size of shoring system would work. This was seam at risk. We were able to model all this up front and figure that stuff out and take out the guesswork. Because you know what happens if we don't have it figured out ahead of time, we get out in the street, problems happen, traffic gets snarled. We just create more problems for our community. This is what we don't want, right? This is what alternate delivery really allows us to do, to dive deep in these unknown site conditions, put all the good minds together and come up with the right solution. Stu's going to talk about this a little bit later, but Doug Gransberg is on our, he actually heads our project delivery committee at Transportation Research Board. He did this research, I think about 4 years ago on different delivery methods, and these are the results. This is on the heavy civil work. These are the results he comes up, but there's plenty of studies that corroborate this. It shows you the cost growth with design, bid, build, CMGC, and design, build. So we need to look at projects cradle to grave, not just the construction portion, but cradle to grave, because that's the time limit that we're all spending resources on a job. And if we can shorten that time, that's money. It doesn't matter whose pot it comes from. It's still money and savings to the taxpayer. I don't know if you can see this. This is the boat called Original Contract, and this is the change order boat. This is design build. I couldn't believe I found something like this, but this is reality. I hate to say it, but this is the business model that design bid build is, and I don't blame either side, but this delivery model forces different behaviors. Like Thomas Edison, I have not failed. I've just found 1,000 different ways it won't work. So if we know we've got issues with certain delivery models and delivering these facilities to our communities, why do we keep doing the same thing? And I'm not saying design, bid, build is not good for the right job, but there's better ways to achieve better results. We got to get better as an industry, and I think these alternate delivery methods do that for us. I know if I'm building a house, and I ask a contractor, several contractors to bid on it, I'm not picking the low guy. The low guy is going to be looking to cut corners. He's going to be looking to make that up. His quality is not good. I'm putting my family in that house for 20 to 30 years. So I'm going to pick the guy I think has the best price, his schedule is done, he's going to put quality, it's going to last for a long time while I'm in that house. You're all the same way. But that's what we do. We pick the low price most of the time instead of the best value or the right choice. So these are the challenges. The culture change and the trust is a big thing. We got to overcome this trust issue, and I think working these alternate delivery models and we're forced to trust you, because what's the driver for us as a contractor? If you don't like what we do, we don't get picked again. I get asked that question all the time. Very simple. If design, bid, build, it doesn't matter. I can do whatever I want. If I'm low again and provide a bond, I'm good. You have no choice in the matter. Alternate delivery, you don't like what I did, you don't like the way I perform, you don't pick. So I'm pretty motivated to do the right thing.
And close your eyes and just fall down, okay? Don't worry.
Okay, then Lauren's going to catch you.
Close your eyes. Okay.
Okay, it's called the trust fall. Okay, trust fall. Ready, set, go.
Nothing like getting on the same page, huh? I love that. So trust is accountability too, and that's the other thing. Trust doesn't, it's an easy word to say, but we all have to be accountable for that trust, and that's an important thing to remember. So trust always affects two outcomes, speed and cost. When trust goes down, speed of delivery goes down, costs go up. Proven fact. When trust goes up, speed goes up, and costs go down. And that's a simple thing to remember. And so we can think about overcoming this trust issue and get on the same page. We're going to like the results that we deliver for our community. We have a lot of great people in this industry, and we hold them back the way we deliver projects sometimes. So this book is by the famous Stephen Covey's son, and it's actually a pretty good book. I've actually given it to some of the executives in TxDOT and some of the area engineers, district engineers, and a lot of our clients, and it's mandatory reading for everyone in my office. But it gets a little long-winded, but I do recommend this book. It's got a lot of good points in it about trust and accountability and everything else. So if you ever want to pick up a copy, there it is. And so alternate deliveries do depend on trust. People want to blame delivery methods, but mainly it's because we didn't educate the people how to implement them correctly, and we didn't trust each other. And that's what causes problems in our industry more than anything. And so we've got to define what success means for everyone, what it means for the client, what it means for the community, what it means for the engineer, and what it means for the contractor. It's all win-win. We all live, work, raise our families in this community. We all want what's best for this community. So that to me is common ground enough why we can't work better together. And so these icebergs, these things under the ground that we need to identify and break down, working together, we can make these things pretty simple, a lot simpler than they have been.